Hello, I'm that cool coder. Welcome back to another video. So today is slightly different because I've actually been busy the last 2 weeks, making my own card game. So I've been working on my own trading card game called Chart Your Course Trading Card Game. So I'm just using Yu-Gi-Oh sleeves. But I've made my own cards with own like game mechanics and art. So in today's video I'm just going to show you how the game works. So it's basically a trading card game where you kind of collect your own cards. And at the moment there's just one deck, which is kind of like the starter deck for the game. But as I release kind of more cards, you can kind of collect them and maybe trade with friends to make your own customizable deck. So you'll need your own deck of at least 36 cards, and every deck needs to contain at least one level 1 captain. So I'll go over all the different cards and captains, but this is a level 1 captain, and you can tell it's level 1 because it says Evolution 1 in the corner, and you need at least one of these in your deck. So you start off with your deck, and you'll also need some dice. So you need to set up the game. So first you need to find all the gold cards in your deck, which say gold on them, and remove them from your deck. And any red captain cards, you've also got to remove them. Okay, so now I'm back, I've got my 2 captains. And the aim of the game is to get rid of all your opponent's captains, because they also have captains. But you can also win if your opponent has no cards in their deck, and if your opponent surrenders. But that's just kind of basic rules. This is the main way you're winning. And I think I said before, but your deck needs to have at least 36 cards. And you can only have 3 copies of a card in your deck, and only 1 copy of a captain. So I'll get over all like deck building and stuff soon. So you start with your main deck without your golden captains and place that down in the middle. And this is your main deck, and it has green ability cards like this one, Walk the Plank. Orange weapon cards like this one, Baguette Sword. And blue pirate cards. And there's also some black pirates called dark pirates, but I'll go into that when we're talking about pirates. And in case you didn't know, the game is about pirates, which is why there's like captains and stuff and gold. And that's kind of the main theme of the card game. So you start with your main deck, and then you shuffle that before you start. And then you have your gold deck with all your gold cards. You just place that next to your gold deck on the right and shuffle that. It's just already kind of shuffled. And ideally, you'd be playing against an opponent who also has, a deck and a gold deck. And then you get your level 1 captain, and you place that left of your main deck in the captain zone. If you have any other captains of higher levels, like evolution captains, you place those face down in your captain zone, just next to the deck, and then you play your face 1 on top of it. And your opponent will also do all the setup, and then decide who goes first, you or your opponent. So you use a fair method. You can use like rolling the dice to see who goes higher, or a coin toss, or rock, paper, scissors if you really want. And then you start by drawing 5 cards from your main deck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you draw 2 from your gold deck. 1, 2. So you have 7. And your opponent also does this. And then you can do your turn. So your turn starts with the draw phase. So it doesn't really matter too much on the first turn. But what you want to do is on other turns, so it's a turn-based game, you want to replenish your hand by drawing until you have 5 main deck cards and 2 gold. So you want to keep going back to 7. And if you have more than 5 main deck, like 6, you want to draw 1 gold to have 7. If you have like 3 gold, you want to draw 4 to get 7. And if you have more than 7, like I do now, because it's my first turn, what you can do is you can optionally, so you don't have to do it, but you can discard a card to draw a new one. So let me just, I'm going to get rid of this gold, because it's 1 gold and isn't very powerful. I'll get onto gold later. Discard it, you place it next to your cards in the discard pile. And the discard pile is called the seabed. And where you place your cards is called the ship. And the seabed is kind of off the board, it's like not on the ship. Similar to when pieces get removed in chess. Just kind of go off. And then you draw the card from that deck where it came from. Because I discarded a gold card, or I draw a new one from the gold deck. But if it was a main deck card, so ability, weapon, or pirates, and let's say I just discarded this, I'd draw a new one from here. So, I got onto gold, that's kind of the easiest. So, gold is the currency of the game, similar to like mana in other games like, I don't know, Magic the Gathering. And at the start of your turn, or normally at the start, you can do it any time in your turn during the main phase, but to do all the phases, after you draw, it's called the main phase, and that's when you do most of your actions. So you can discard gold into the seabed, and that's the amount of gold you have for the turn. So I'd use the 2 gold card, and that means I have 2 gold value for my turn to spend on cards. And then to play cards, you need to look at their cost. So I'll count all the kind of different cards and what they do, but the card Beget Sword costs 2 gold. So if I wanted to play that card, it would get rid of my 2 gold value, and then I wouldn't be able to use it. But if I like use 10, which is kind of high, but then I only used it on 2, it wouldn't get rid of 4. I still have 8 left. And that's where you also can do a little bit of maths. You can keep track of your gold value on like pen or paper, or just kind of in your head. But make sure you tell your opponent, you know, I'm spending gold, so they don't just realise, oh, where does that come from? So the main type of cards are called pirates, and these need to be boarded onto the ship before you can use them. So I'll go over this one, Pirate Sebi, and this is level 3, and you can look at the level in the top corner, and that's how much gold it costs to summon. Not summon, I mean board. Boarding is like kind of summoning the card, but it's just called boarding. And they'll have a name and a number as well, which tells you when they were made. And smart. And then this will tell you that it's a pirate, but you can also see the blue background. And then that's an attribute. So currently there's only human, dinosaur, effect, and dark. And then they'll have attack points and defense points if it's used for combat. And then they'll have an attack name. The attack name doesn't really do anything, you just kind of use it. Like maybe when you're attacking, saying, I used this attack. And that's the year it was made. So let's pretend I have 3. Look, 1 plus 2 is 3. So you can add on to the gold value. So I've used 3 gold. And I'm going to use all my 3 gold value to board Pirate Sebi onto the ship. And then if I had more gold value, I could do other stuff like board this card. And this card is an effect pirate, which means it has a special effect. So I'll kind of go over all the effects, but they're similar to weapon and ability effects, which I'll cover later. But these generally help you or hurt your opponent. And these usually just are like continuous effects that work when it's face up on the field. Like this one says, this card gains 1 attack point for each ability in your seabed. So it starts off with 1, but if you keep using abilities, you'll get more. Speaking of abilities, these are abilities. So this is called Walk the Plank. And abilities are green, and they say ability, and they have a cost to use, and then name, number, you developed, and that's the effect. So abilities goes into your card zones, like your pirates. These spaces are called your card zones, and you have 3 of them. And they go in front of your captain zone, main deck, and gold deck. And then when you play ability, put it onto the gold deck, and then use effect. This one says, send a pirate card you control to your seabed. So I'll get rid of my Pirate Sebi, send to the seabed. And then this card, when this effect is used, they go to the seabed as well. So Walk the Plank generally isn't a very good card, because it just kind of gets rid of one of your own pirates. However, you can only have 3. So you may want to get rid of one to give yourself a better one. And then weapons. Weapons are kind of like power-ups, I think. If you put onto other cards to make them better. So let's just say I have Pirate Sebi, and then I use the Baguette Sword. And then that costs 2 gold, so let's just say I spend the gold from somewhere. And I can equip the weapon onto Pirate Sebi by going like this and placing it horizontally sideways on top of the card. So it's kind of up to you how you place it. You can make it so you can still see the name or the attack points. And currently, all the weapons, what they do is they just give you more attack. But some of them, you've got to read the effects, because some of them, they can only go onto certain cards. Like this one says, equip only to Pirate Sebi or Dark Sebi. The equipped card gains 1 attack point. See, because this name is Pirate Sebi, you can equip it onto that card. And now it'll have 3 attack instead of just the 2, which is its base attack. So, after your main phase, what you can do is you can enter the combat phase to fight your opponent's pirates. So kind of I'm just going to showcase in the game against myself, but my opponent could have a pirate. And then you can conduct battle. So you tell your opponent, say, I'm attacking your super advanced fire incinerator with my Pirate Sebi. And then you've got to roll the dice to decide who wins. But the dice is based on the attack and defense values. So I'm attacking with a 2 attack power. However, this gives me 1 more attack, so I have 3 attack power. And that one's defending, and it only has 1 defense point. So it has 1. So I'd roll 3 dice. So I got 6, 6, and 1, which adds up to 13. And then my opponent would roll 3. So obviously they lost. I mean, you can kind of work out that 1 dice wouldn't be enough to get rid of 13. But so you determine the loser of the battle, and then whoever had the lowest dice roll, their card, their either attacker or defender pirate, gets sent to the seabed. And let's say this one won, then the weapon would get sent with the seabed as well. And an important thing to note is you can only equip 1 weapon to a pirate at a time, so I couldn't have 2 weapons on Pirate Sebi. And in the case of a tie, if they both got the same, then they both get destroyed. So that would get sent to my seabed, and that would get sent to my opponent's seabed. So let's bring that back. You can only attack with a pirate once per turn. So if my opponent had more cards, you could attack with this one, get destroyed, but then you couldn't attack with it again. But if you had a different card, like if I had this, I attack my opponent. Now, if my opponent has no pirates, then there's nothing protecting their captain. So I can attack their captain from their captain zone. So captains don't have high defense points, like this one has 4. So it's kind of hard to get rid of. But if I did, if I got enough attack power, or, enough luck of the dice, then my opponent would lose their captain. The captain would be sent back to their seabed. However, they could evolve their captain by looking through their face-down captain cards and seeing if they had a captain whose evolution level is 1 more than their destroyed captain's evolution level. So if you can see, Captain Pebble is evolution 1. So if it gets destroyed, it could summon out an evolution 2 captain. And that's how it evolves. But then if I got to the evolution 2, and my opponent didn't have any evolution 3, then they've lost all their captains. So if you lose all your captains, or you can't evolve, like this one can't evolve, then you lose the game. So that's why you want pirates protecting your captain and also attacking other people's captains. And then, after the combat phase, it goes into the aftermath phase. So that's just kind of happens after the battle. You kind of, so it's identical to the main phase. So you can pay gold, some pirates, but you can't attack again. You can only do the combat phase once in a turn. So yeah, you can just kind of, maybe if you lost some pirates, you can try and build them back. And then hand the game over to your opponent. So just say, I am my turn or something. And then your opponent plays. So they do their draw phase. On their first turn, they'll have 7. So they can optionally discard and draw again. And then they'd play. And then, yeah, that's how the game works. So just keep on going until you get rid of the captains. So I'll just go over some of the kind of types of effects. So we have dark pirates. So dark pirates are exactly the same as normal pirates and effect pirates. However, on their text box they say dark and they have like a black background. And they're kind of supposed to represent like evil and kind of corruption. But yeah, they just kind of work the exact same as normal pirates. That's just kind of a distinction. And then there also comes like kind of like effects on cards. So you should be able to kind of read them and understand them. It's not like other games where they have lots of keywords. You need to keep going back to the glossary to find what they mean. But so you can probably work them out. But for example, this one says add one card that mentions Super Advanced Fire Incinerator from your deck to your hand. So if a card mentions it, then it's either then the thing in speech marks is mentioned in either its name or effect. So you can use this one to search out the card Super Advanced Fire Incinerator. You can also use it to search out the card Dark Sebi because it says Super Advanced Fire Incinerator in its text box. Speaking of Dark Sebi has an effect that says take control of that card as your own card. So when you take control of your opponent's card, you can kind of steal it from your opponent and then you just board it onto your ship if you have an unused card zone. And then that would go to your seabed when destroyed because it's treated as your card. Just make sure to give it back to your opponent at the end of the game if you want to play again and like keep your deck. There's also cards that can negate other effects like the card Vitamin C. So if your opponent plays Scurvy, negate that ability. And that's a 0 cost card. And this works, it can be activated from your hand. So if your opponent plays the card Scurvy, does it, because this card has the kind of negate effect, you can play that on your turn to stop their Scurvy, and then the action just doesn't happen. That card just gets sent to their seabed. The same with the if effects. These are like kind of trigger effects. So if your opponent controls Super Advanced Fire Incinerator, so let's say you just board Dark Sebi and your opponent has Super Advanced Fire Incinerator, you can use Dark Sebi's effect. But on your opponent's turn, if they just board that card, then you can do it, or on your turn. So it's kind of like an effect that you can use on both turns. The only other one is drawing cards. The card Super Salvage says draw 2 cards. It's quite a powerful effect. And you can draw 2 cards from your main deck, or 2 cards from your gold deck, or 1 card from your main deck and 1 card from your gold deck, because they add up to 2. So the card Salvage says draw 1 card. So it's either 1 from your main deck or 1 from your gold deck. And yeah, I think that kind of explains all the cards. So just kind of read them. The only other one is board for free. It says, board onto the ship for free. That just means you have the card effect boards it, so you don't need to pay the kind of summoning cost, the gold it costs to board. And yeah, that's it. I've got a document I've printed that just kind of shows you the rules. Like this is the ship and the seabed. That kind of just shows you the phases and the different cards. But I've kind of explained this in the video. And there's also kind of PDF document I've made. It has more of an in-depth of guide of the rules to every single card. Not every single card in the game, but all like the card types and what they do. So yeah, let me know if you have any feedback. And subscribe.